Hi, my name is Melinda. I'm a licensed funeral director and embalmer. I specialize in extensive restorative art, oversized embalming cases, undersized embalming cases including wasting illnesses, long-term storage embalming, and embalming for the straight case for the most natural results possible. I was part of a team that was ranked #1 out of over 2,500 funeral homes in decedent appearance as ranked by families. I'm also a fine artist. I painted that and do portrait work. And I am doing a series on embalming to try to pass on my tips and tricks and my opinions on embalming and theories as I see them. I wanted to bounce off the last video I made discussing changing no features. So, what constitutes features of a face? We've got the mouth, the nose, the eyes, the eyebrows, the bone structure really. So the bone structure is kind of a mutable feature in terms of people can lose or gain weight, but their features usually always stay the same. There are interesting differences that happen with massive weight loss, but by the time we get somebody, we usually have some set features that this person potentially had their entire life. So I'm going to use myself as an example first. I have really thick eyebrows. Believe it or not, they used to be even thicker when I was younger. So I had these eyebrows, and I was working at one of my first jobs before I was a funeral director. An older man approached me and he said, "Your eyebrows remind me of my wife's eyebrows." And he was a foreign gentleman, but they were enough to remind him of a loved one, right? Because they were extremely distinct. Even now, they're quite distinct. They are, I would say, my most distinct feature. Let's say I'm probably never going to really change my eyebrows from this point on, and I'm probably going to have this shape and length for the rest of my life. I'm happy with this. I think it's flattering on me. Let's say in however many years it is my turn for my layout. Let's say the funeral director who is embalming me takes one look at my eyebrows and they say to themselves, "Those are way too thick. I am gonna thin those right down," and we get pencil thin eyebrows as a result. And they lay me out and they put me in my nice little suit and they do my makeup and they wait for the family to get there. And when all the people that have known me my entire life see me with pencil thin eyebrows, they are going to quietly think to themselves, "Oh my goodness, she looks unrecognizable." Because I've had these eyebrows my entire life. They are what make my face. If you give me thinner or thicker eyebrows, because they are such a defining feature, I'm going to look like a stranger and like nothing I did in my life. So this goes for everything. Just because somebody doesn't agree with my thick eyebrows and might change them, there's other things that you ought to not touch, in my opinion. One of those things is a unibrow. Or I've had people with truly tremendous eyebrows, more prominent than mine, almost flicking out. So these eyebrows, you kind of want to keep that quality of them, because if that person had intended to change something optional like eyebrows or other facial hair, they would have done it by then. Unless there are cases where people get so sick that they stop taking care of themselves. A lot of times you see this with people who have really long-term illnesses and they just lose either the motivation or the time, or it just falls very far down on the list of things to do when they're that sick. And of course, the best way to kind of prevent any mistakes is to speak to the family directly and just ask them what it is they're expecting out of you. I even leave women's facial hair alone sometimes, but again, we could always ask the family. Anybody who's ever prepared somebody for a wake knows the one time you don't ask is the one time you were not supposed to do X, Y, or Z. I've read about families wanting to leave grandma's charming little mustache. Sometimes that is a defining feature. The main point here is just because you perceive something as a flaw doesn't necessarily make it a flaw to change or to correct. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you found it helpful. I would love any kind of discourse that you have or any questions. Feel free to ask me, and I'd be happy to work on that.